are here at Hollywood Smoke for another episode of The 10 Count. I'm Steve Kim from UCN Live. Joining me is Michael Montero of Montero on Boxing, and Doug Fischer, editor-in-chief of Ring TV. Now, guys, I think the biggest event in boxing that'll get the most casual fans, the most attention, is November 21st, Cotto Canelo. Is it safe to say, Michael, that maybe the fight fans' fight card of the second half of 2015 takes place October 17th, Golovkin, Lemieux, and that accompanying undercard?
The accompanying undercard's great. The co-feature's great. Golovkin and Roman Gonzalez are kind of becoming this 1-2 punch, right? Like the modern 1-2 punch in boxing.
Tyson Chavez.
Yeah. It's just, it goes together like peanut butter and jelly. And it's priced right. K2 Promotions is doing it right. The tickets are cheap. I believe half of them are under $150 or something like that. The pay-per-view is $50. I can't remember the last pay-per-view that was $50. So in between the Mayweather Petro card and the and the Cotto Canelo card, you got this really, really good, cheap, affordable card where you're probably getting the most bang for your buck, top to bottom.
You know, it was amazing, Doug, that some of the people that I think, to me, the PBC pom-pom waivers, I remember when this fight was on the verge of being announced, and then when tickets were about to be on sale, I kept hearing, it's too soon, it's not going to sell, Golovkin is not as big a draw as you think. And I thought it was amazing. Within 5 days, they had 10,000 tickets sold.
I got to admit, that surprised me. I mean, I thought that it would be sort of a gradual promotion and kind of build up, and once people started, you know, watching the pre-shows and seeing highlights of Golovkin's fights and Lemieux's fights. I mean, that's the best advertisement, is their fights. These guys are not in boring fights. I mean, David Lemieux's fight with Hassan Ndam, I won't call it a fight of the year or even a fight of the year candidate because it was so one-sided. I believe Ndam went down 5 times or so. Four times. It seemed like, I mean, it seemed like he was down every other round, but the dude refused to be knocked out. And here's the kicker. Lemieux still tried to knock him out in every round. So he proved in that fight that he could beat a world-class middleweight with a difficult style and with a ton of heart and with amazing resolve and recuperative abilities. But he also showed that he is not a front runner. He's not one of these punchers that comes out there and loads up with punches for 2 or 3 rounds and then gradually loses his power and then has nothing left for, for the final drive. He's grown a lot, and I think his last 2 fights have given him more respect in the United States than he had previously.
You know what?
I think beating Gabe Rosado, who was a gatekeeper, and then beating a top 10, maybe arguably top 5 middleweight in Ndam, people are saying, okay, listen, Golovkin is still a huge favorite. Golovkin is considered elite, but this dude is live, and when they look at what he's done recently, and they look at his record, and then they hear the kid talk, and he's so damn focused and so primal, you get what you didn't have with Mayweather-Berto. When Berto spoke and when Berto's trainer, Virgil Hunter, spoke, you did not get the belief that they believed that they were going to win, that they were even going to come in there and really make a concerted effort. When you talk to Lemieux and his manager and his trainer, they're all like, no, we're kicking his ass, wait and see. You're gonna check that chin, we're gonna show you this, we're gonna show you that. That makes you want to see the damn fight. Virgil
Hunter did everything short of genuflecting on the shrine of Mayweather. That was sad. It was like Bruce Seldon Tyson. I'll never forget that. Mike, here's the thing that is maddening to me, that people who are critical of this fight will always hold Marco Antonio Rubio and Joaquim Alcin, those losses against Lemieux, as if fighters can't get better. Like a fighter that was 5 years ago simply is the same fighter for the rest of time. It doesn't work that way. Guys can get better.
This is like the Vladimir Klitschko thing, where there's some people that just can't get over the fact that the guy lost 11 years ago. Look, Lemieux's a different guy than he was then. Guess what, people? You can lose and learn and come back and get better. Look it up. It's happened a lot of times in boxing.
He needed it. He probably needed to get knocked out.
He was believing his own hype a little bit. He was fighting in very controlled situations up there in Canada, and he got caught by a guy in Rubio who is experienced. He knows a little something about fighting, right?
Right.
You mentioned the PBC cheerleaders that were kind of shitting on this fight.
Yeah.
And at first they were saying, oh, it won't sell, it won't sell. I noticed once it started to sell, they started to say, oh, it shouldn't be pay-per-view.
Right.
Shouldn't be pay-per-view.
The pay-per-view won't do over 100.
The bottom line is they had to make this pay-per-view because Lemieux, I heard, is getting upwards of $2 million. At that price, and by the way, they're giving you bang for the dollar. Now, stylistically, listen, there's still a reason why Golovkin is the heavy favorite. I think technically he's too sound. There's varying degrees of puncher's chances. There are legitimate, your Ernest Shavers puncher's chances, and there's also the Freddie Roach who one time said, Steve, you know what a puncher's chance really is? And I said, what's Freddie? That's another way of saying you got to get lucky. Okay, where does Lemieux stand in that?
You asking me?
Yeah, both of you.
Well, I'll tell you what. Golovkin has been in with punchers before, most notably and most recently, Curtis Stevens, right?
Yeah.
Curtis Stevens, and if you look at how Curtis Stevens was befuddled by Hassan N'Dam, and Lemieux went in there and whooped ass for 12 rounds, that's because they are different kinds of punchers. Curtis Stevens is a guy, very fast, hell of a left hook, great power in his right and his left hook, but he's looking to counterpunch you. He stays on the back foot. He's not going out to get it. Lemieux, every minute of every round, he's going out to get it. He has power in his hook. He has power in his right hand, and he's throwing combinations. Don't take my word for it, folks. Go to YouTube, watch his fights. Find the N'Dam fight and watch. He goes to the body, and he goes to the body and head in combination. That's a big difference. Listen, if he's going to knock out Golovkin, yeah, he does have to get a little bit lucky. He's got to hope that Golovkin treats him like Monroe Jr., which I don't think is going to happen. But the thing is, the way he goes in there and goes after it, he has way more of a puncher's chance than any other previous puncher that Golovkin's faced.
Michael?
Both of these fighters have shown in the past that they're not front runners when it comes to power punching. They can punch with power late in fights. You mentioned the N'Dam fight with Lemieux, where he was still going for the knockout in the 12th. And we saw with Golovkin in his last fight, was it Murray? Or was it
Martin Murray.
Where he was still punching hard late in that fight, right? So this is two seek and destroy guys. It's a can't miss fight of the year candidate. The only thing that could make this fight not live up to expectations is if there's an early KO. I don't see that.
No, I don't see that.
Lemieux has an absolutely legitimate shot, and he's going to land punches.
I think Golovkin's going to have to pick and probe in the beginning. I think he'll be left-hand dominant, but with a jab. I don't think he's going to hook with the hooker. I think he's going to have to wade through the first 3 rounds, gauge the speed and the velocity of the left hook. I expect them to be working a lot on having Golovkin's right hand right here to be able to parry and deflect. I think he's going to have to box a little bit. And real quickly, on the main event, we know that's going to be a great fight, but just to big a story, Ramon Gonzalez is fighting Brian Viloria.
Yes.
I might be a Hawaiian Punch homer. I'm going to say it right now. I think the Hawaiian Punch is a dangerous dog here, guys.
I totally agree with you. He knows something about fighting. He's been in there with a lot of top guys. He's extremely motivated for this fight. Saw him at the press conference here in LA, and he just had an aura about him. You mentioned Lemieux having that aura of confidence. I saw the exact same thing in Viloria. He is going to test, mark my words, he is going to test Roman Gonzalez more than any opponent yet. I'm saying it right now.
I agree with you guys, and why wouldn't Viloria be confident? He is a 15-year veteran. He was a 2000 Olympian, but he was an elite amateur. He was, and still is, an elite-level flyweight. Has a decorated career, 40 pro fights. I don't know how many titles he's won.
3 world titles.
Yeah, over 2 weight classes.
Right.
And this is a guy who has been perhaps tested more than Roman Gonzalez. He's the older guy, but his style, he's got power. He's got a jab, and Gonzalez doesn't always use the jab. Gonzalez is a guy who's a seek and destroy fighter, a little bit heavy on his feet. You know, we saw Steve, and you probably saw this fight as well, his fight with Juan Estrada. He beat Juan Estrada, but Estrada gave him trouble because Estrada didn't stay in the same place. He stuck and moved. And one thing I know about Viloria, as the old-timers say, he can punch on the fly.
Yeah, and he's got a big left hook. And I think one thing about Brian Viloria,
and he's fast.
He's got very good speed still. And seeing him at the gym 2 weeks ago, I asked him, how much do you weigh? And he said, right now I weigh about 116. So he's right on where you should be in terms of the weight. There'll be no dehydration. Anyway, on behalf of Doug Fischer and Michael Montero, this is Steve Kim. To the next segment of the 10 Count, goodbye, everybody.